Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Find Out podcast. We have a great show for you today. We are actually joined by one of the Capitol Hill police officers that was there on the scene on January 6th and has been a true patriot his entire life. Harry Dunn is with us. Harry, how are you?
Fellas, good to be with you all. Thank you all. I'm well, all things considered, right?
Good. Yes. It's so funny.
Considered.
Anytime I ask somebody that, whether it's on the show or in person, because I live in New York City, it's the same. It's like, well, considering,
I know,
we're standing, right? Like
we've been grading life on a progressive curve since 2016 and then 2020. I'm like, I don't know, man, we're real low, but like relative to, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, like sure, I'm doing fine.
Like,
every day above ground is a good day.
It's kind of like, if you're not dead, you're
right.
okay.
Are you wheezing? I can't
The
hear
bar is not
myself
high.
breathe, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So, Harry, I want to get into your story and obviously talking about January 6th, but as I was doing research, I didn't realize that you were drafted into the Canadian Football League. Did I read that correctly?
I signed as a free agent in the Canadian
Okay.
Football League. Yeah,
Nice.
I played for the Montreal Alouettes. A short stint up there. Had two different seasons up there where I played. Injuries kind of brought that career to an end, and here I am now. Life comes at you fast.
Yeah.
What
Well,
position did you play?
Offensive tackle.
Nice.
Tackle.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
and I think that's actually important to what we're going to go into because you
Right.
are not a small person, and you are
Well, my playing size. I was 6'7", 335.
Oh my!
And that was like
Holy
the
fuck.
best shape of my life. I'm like a fat old man now. I'm like,
Are we all?
I mean, same. But I think it's important to set the table for people for what we're going to talk about because
Sure.
obviously
Yeah.
we're going to talk about a lot of things that have happened past January 6th, but I do think it's, for our audience, take us back. I know this is not a good day in history, obviously, but like,
Yeah.
give us a rundown of like, what you were supposed to be doing on that day and when you got a sense of things starting to go wrong.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Like, we're almost 5 years in January. It'll be 5 years since the January 6th attack. And the fact that we still have to talk about it, right? Because one of the darkest, biggest days in American history, but also one of the reasons why I find myself continuing to have to talk about it is because some individuals are attempting to rewrite what happened,
Right.
erase what happened, tell everybody what they saw with their own eyes didn't really happen. So that's why it's kind of ironic. Something 5 years later, we're still talking about front and center. But that's why. But going into the story, I was a Capitol Police officer for 16 years before I left the department in 2023, 24 to pursue my political aspirations. But people didn't know who the Capitol Police were on January 5th, 2021. They didn't know the
Right.
Capitol Police had their own police force. They didn't know that January 6th happens every single election cycle. They didn't know that, but it always did happen. So this wasn't my first, my second, my third January 6th that happened where they certified the result of the election. It happens every single year. Capitol Police has their own unique police force. It's not security guards, although people may look and be like, they're just checking x-ray machines and magnetometers when you walk through. I mean, we have K9 officers, we have a SWAT team, we have officers that'll pull you over if you run a stop sign. We have all kinds of, we have intelligence sections, we have threats. We operate a dignitary protection division, which is similar to Secret Service that protects 24/7, 365 security for members of Congress, including, leadership, the speaker, the minority whip, the lead, all that type of stuff. So Capitol Police is not just like security guards. It's a very esteemed police force with a great group of men and women. And I would say over my career, I have overseen close to 1,000 protests, maybe more. And when you see protests, I'm not talking about the extremism of January 6th or whatever. It could be 3 individuals out there reading a Bible in front of the Capitol to their members of Congress. That's protected free speech and considered a protest. And from anything from that to the Million Man's March the Black Lives Matter to any the what's the big abortion right that they do every
Oh, the
year.
Women's March or the
The one
The March for Life.
March for Life,
The anti-abortion.
right to
Yeah.
life, right to life, and everything in between. So conservatives, liberals, anarchists. I mean, hell, the KKK came up there protesting one day. So it's a life in the day of Capitol Police. All while doing that, our number one focus and our number one drive is to keep members safe so they can fulfill their constitutional obligations. That's our mission statement.
So you weren't out there checking like parking tickets at the hospital parking garage. Is that what you're saying? That's not the job?
Well, no, we have people that issue parking tickets. So you better park where you're supposed to, especially on Capitol Hill. You will get a ticket.
I can vouch for Harry because I have been pulled over by the Capitol Hill Police in the past. I used to live in DC, and I think it was in the mid 2000s. It was a few years after 9/11, and there was a big no on driving box trucks up through on the House side and the Senate side. There's two roads. I think it's Independence and Constitution on the other side. And me as I think I was like 25 or no, I was 23, 24. I'm moving to the Hill. I'm driving my truck, and all of a sudden, the guys swarm me, and they're like, "What the hell?" And then I realized it, and I was like, "I'm an idiot. Yeah, I will go all the way around." But anyways, they're if you live in DC, you see the presence, but generally speaking, you're right. Like you don't see them, and you don't think of all the things they do. But I think that's a good that's a good table setting for the next part, which is on January 6th. Obviously there had been a ton of rhetoric. The President Trump at the time was saying the election was stolen and rigged. Stop the steal. Ted Cruz was getting up on cars and screaming like, "We're going to go to the Capitol the next day." Charlie Kirk bust hundreds of people on his own dime. This guy that we're going to give memorials to. Doing all of this. So did you guys have any advance notice that things might get rough? Was it a surprise, or what? How did that unfold?
So going back and looking at all the social media posts, based and seeing how things unfolded, it's easy to see. Maybe we should have, but at the same time, like I said, we've overseen thousands of protests. Like I said, the Klan was up there. The people, the Second Right Amendment group have been up there before. The Million Man March. I mean, inaugurations where every major demonstration, police are outnumbered. Like we just rely on basic humanity and decency that they're not going to attack police officers and storm the Capitol. I mean, if you look at that, that's the case across the whole country. Police numbers are outnumbered, but yet they're in control. How? Because they got guns? No, because they believe in human decency. I mean, if every single armed individual in this country went against the police wouldn't stand a chance. But we kind of like the military too. I mean, it's like the same thing. It's humans and civilians outnumber law enforcement. So looking back, yes, maybe there were signs there. Like I've seen things. I saw screenshots say, "Hey, we're going to storm the Capitol." Yeah, right, bro. Okay, cool story.
People talk a lot of shit,
cool
especially those
story,
people.
Right. Cool story. Like, sure, good luck. But yeah, they weren't lying, right?
Yeah, so, I was one of the intelligence guys, like infiltrating those extremist organizations, writing reports for the FBI, kind of like trying to. And my entire fucking field was right. I wasn't alone in this, and we were more or less ignored. Like it, I think that it's not just because the Trump administration effectively had everyone stand down. Yeah. I do think that the threats that we were bringing forward sounded so unbelievable that people just simply dismissed them. And I think that complacency was a big part of the problem of what happened that day, and letting law enforcement not be prepared for what I knew in my not in my heart, like I knew for a fact it was happening. Like I had all the recordings, I had the videos, like all that shit. So
I saw like a screenshotted plan of action for they were going to occupy the Capitol and surround it, and they would have teams of snipers on buildings to take out law enforcement responding. And you're thinking like, shut the hell up. No fucking way,
Right.
dude. Like, but maybe it was their plan all along, but
I can tell you it was. That was the plan.
It was, right?
Yeah.
I chalk it up to incompetence more so than yes, it was a security failure, clearly, but I don't believe it was a setup as many people in some orbits have suggested. I think it was a total and absolute intelligence failure, but I don't believe it was set up by this orchestrated plot to make Donald Trump and his supporters look bad. Like, no, it wasn't that. Like, it was.
Harry,
you mean you weren't like a secret Antifa member that was paid by the left?
No, I mean they've been saying that stuff.
It's fucking ridiculous.
One of the most recent reports that one extreme news group, I'm not going to say their name, has reported that a former Capitol police officer was the pipe bomber. Like that's listen, I'm all for finding who out any bad players that did anything wrong, bring their ass to justice. I don't care if her last name is Pelosi or their last name is Trump. I don't care if they're responsible for it, but don't be out there just pushing this propaganda because it fits your fucking narrative. Like, give me a break.
Well, we've heard that it was an FBI op, all of these things, which it's like,
while Trump is president,
right?
If you told me, I don't know, 10 years ago that in 2025 the party that holds all of the government, every lever of power in government, was also the party that is systemically gaslighting police officers and intelligence agencies in order to protect criminals, and that they're also going to call themselves the party of law and order at the same time, and that people would vote for that, I would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's a dystopian, that's not even sci-fi, I would believe.
Yeah. Well, that's why
here we are.
Well, that's why those talking points and reaching people where they are, and it's great. Shout out to you all for the reach that y'all are doing, because people hear stuff and they just believe it. Oh yeah, Trump's for. No, okay, let's pull the curtain back a little bit and show that he's only for people that are with him. You know what I mean? If there was somebody out there that loved guns and was anti-abortion and all the pro-tariffs, all that stuff, but they said, Donald Trump, you lost the election, then he would hate them.
Yes.
Yes. Blind loyalty to one particular individual, not even topics.
Right. Well, Harry, so at the start of everything, you were outside, correct?
Yeah.
At the beginning. Yeah. So were you in one of those front forward lines of officers when those barricades started to go? Or
no, so my whole career I worked on what's called the first responders unit, and it's always outside, hot, cold, rain, sunny, fair weather.
Right.
With fair weather doesn't exist in DC. The humidity in 200.
It's like 2 weeks out of the year that are kind
maybe
of
like we'll get about 2 weeks, but those weeks won't even be consecutive. It'll be like a day, and then like 3 days later. But no, I worked outside first responders unit, and at that particular day, I was on a staircase to one of those upper steps with a rifle. I had an AR, Rock River AR rifle with me, and it was just like an overwatch position. I wasn't on the front lines.
Okay.
Even most of that day, we'll get into it, but I didn't suffer a lot of the physical injuries that a lot of my coworkers did.
Flagpoles and the tasering.
Because I was at a position of advantage with my rifle, and I didn't go into the crowd for fear that they would grab and take my rifle.
Right.
So I kind of just stayed back and just helped out with officers as much as I could.
So with all that going on, obviously it becomes chaos pretty fast, right? Because I think they all kind of gathered and then they moved very quickly, which is why they put out this nonsense that, we were actually, let's dispel this right now. A lot of them said, well, we were just allowed into the building by the police officers. What's your response to that?
Listen, allowing somebody in and not being able to stop them from getting in are two different things. Like if you got 500 people coming in, one person, two people are not going to be able to stop. So they kind of made a business decision and said, F that, I am not getting trampled. So being let in is not the same as not being able to stop them. Let's be clear about that.
So then when obviously the decision was made, which obviously if you look at the footage, like there was really no other option other than to let them in because there were just not enough officers. So you see that happening. So is that when you start moving inside, or what's the trigger to?
Also, real quick though, back up just the officers like falling back. It wasn't giving; it was a retreat to a position, a better position of advantage. You know, you're not just going to sit there. You're going to try to find a different area where you're more safe or you're surrounded by more officers.
Right.
And there were more officers at the building, the wall of the building, the face of the building, and inside the building. So they were falling back to regroup with everybody else instead of just being out there in no man's land. But to answer your question, as far as like when I went in the building, so Metro Police, we got to thank for Metropolitan Police showing up when they did, because everybody talks about Capitol Police. Metropolitan Police saved our ass. So, you know, you had officers grabbing Metro buses just coming. And while MPD was on the scene, the crowds just kept growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And Metropolitan ended up being on the front line, mixed in with Capitol Police. But a lot of the Capitol Police officers were in the building and on the building doors. Because the average Metropolitan Police officer doesn't know the Capitol landscape. They don't know the layout of it. So once the initial breach happened in the Capitol, officers were on the radio calling for, hey, we need help inside now. So I was like, all right, I know the building inside. Capitol Police know the building inside. DC Police doesn't really. Hey, the guys that I were around, hey, let's go inside. Because, hey, if they say, hey, I need somebody at H233, I know where that is, but nobody else is really going to know where that is. So I went inside, and that's where went inside the building.
Okay, and then from there, did you go directly to Speaker Pelosi's office, or how did that? When you went inside, were you seeing? I'm going to call them insurrectionists because that's what they were.
You're not wrong.
Did we see them?
What they were.
And like, what happens inside the building once you get there?
So where I came out is actually where the president usually walks out to take on the West Front on that big inaugural stage. And that was a staging area for where officers were, whether it was to refuel munitions, to get water, to get deconned, to get medical aid. A lot of vulnerable officers were there. Yeah, so officers are down there and, you know, they're in a vulnerable state right there. Officers sometimes are incapacitated because they have been sprayed with bear mace. And also thinking about bear mace, these individuals had Raid and WD-40 that they were spraying. It wasn't just bear canisters and Raid. They were just pelting officers with everything they had. So the officers were incapacitated in those states. Some of them had rifles also, and they would set their rifles down. They would take their gun belts off. So guns were in the hallway and obviously surrounded by officers within their possession. But this was at this time a secure location. So I run up the stairs to get towards where I hear shots fired. Obviously that's, you know, fast forwarding a little bit, where I hear, and at the top of the staircase where these officers were, it was unguarded. It was left wide open, and there were rioters, insurrectionists in the crypt of the building, just meddling around. They weren't doing anything but screaming and chanting and blah, blah, blah. But I knew at the bottom of those stairs, those officers were vulnerable. There were guns there. There were munitions there. And they would have been coming up from behind them. So also another thing, the people that were in the building weren't screened. They had backpacks on them. We don't know if they had weapons on them. We don't know if they had bombs on them. But from what I saw on the West Front, where the most violence took place, officers were getting their ass whooped. So I assumed that anybody in the building was whooping officers' ass to get in the building. So they treated them as hostiles. So I had a standoff right there guarding that staircase until other officers showed up, and then I ran into the speaker's lobby once officers came.
I think that's the thing that's so important to call out is like, it's so easy to rewrite history once you know all of the information and say, well, nobody even had weapons. You guys didn't have you didn't have the helicopter footage. You didn't have the crowd footage. Like you guys are people in a building. And there are thousands of people pouring into the building, like you point out, with like flagpoles and pepper spray and all the shit we know that they had. and tasers in some cases, and then God knows whatever else in their backpack. And you're the only people standing between maybe those people and getting the actual elected officials. And you got to make decisions in that spot. You don't have all that information that, oh, well, these people are just peaceful or they're not.
Well, let me
you don't know what's
step
happening
in here because not a lot of people know this, but there were a fuckload of insurrectionists who were carrying firearms who entered the building.
Shocker.
I have, researchers who were in the crowd who were standing next to them. Like one would go to draw his weapon during a conflict and others would tell him, no, not yet. Right.
Yeah.
Not get
yet.
out of here, but not yet.
Oh,
Exactly.
Right. So it's, I in the initial, because I wasn't on the ground that day, my initial emotional response was like, why didn't the law enforcement like open fucking fire when people started getting beat? Because in any other situation where cops are getting beat like that, there would, I think, be an exchange of gunfire. But in that situation, it would have made things 1,000 times fucking worse.
Oh yeah.
And there's there were not enough cops to stop all of the insurrectionists who had firearms.
And also another thing, correct. And thanks for being there, Chris, also. But one of the other things is in law enforcement, and I've never had military training, but I assume, or, you treat somebody like they have a gun until you prove that they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's armed until you prove that they're not. The reason why people are able to walk around the Capitol without guns pointed to their head and because they go through security.
Right.
So we prove that they don't have weapons. Nobody in the Capitol is armed under normal days. So when they talking about, hey, when the officers weren't friendly, like I got complaints filed against me because I was telling people to shut the fuck up and get the fuck out. They're like, hey, relax. We're peaceful protesters. No, get the fuck out.
No, the fuck you're not.
People like this, the right wing web news. Officer Dunn was unhinged. He had to be surrounded by people. He had his firearm, his rifle trained, and they were worried that he was going to shoot them. You should have been worried.
Right.
That
is exactly
That's
how
the
it
point.
should go.
You crossed my mind.
You shouldn't fucking be in there.
You should have been worried that I was going to shoot you, because that's the thing. These people were threats. Every single person in that building was a threat, period. Because not one person submitted to security screening, and several of them trampled and beat officers to get in the building.
Right.
So when they say, oh, well, we were led in the building, we were peaceful protesters, you could easily respond. So you went through security then?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so they go,
Yeah. Because that's the only way you're let in the building, once you go through security. So miss me with that shit, man.
It's like, look, it's like what the Republicans have done with the woman who was shot and killed. Trying to break into a secured location.
Damn.
And what I would say, and I've been in the White House, I've been in the Capitol, honestly, that's what you want the officers to do. If there is an angry
somebody's
mob,
got to eventually,
and they're screaming about, where is Mike Pence? Where is Nancy Pelosi? What do you think they would have done if they had gotten a hold of them, right?
They were chanting, hang Mike Pence. They had a fucking gallows.
They had a gallows out there. And some people were stabbing police officers with American flags. I mean, the symbolism of that is just insane. But I just and Trump is talked about this woman, and I don't even want to say her name, but is a martyr. And I'm like, no, she attempted a coup on the United States.
Not even that. A lot of things people that follow this know her family was awarded $5 million.
A fuckload of money.
Right.
Because, and what was they awarded for? A wrongful death, right? All right, so if it's a wrongful death, there should have been charges filed against that officer. There should have been. He was cleared by 3 different agencies multiple times that it was a good shoot. And let's be clear. Yes, she went through. That was the 5th or 6th police checkpoint that she breached. It wasn't like that was just her crossing the bike racks outside or going up the steps or then banging through the door. So 3, 4, going up the steps again to the speak. That was like the 5th or 6th time she had bypassed security.
Right.
And that was the final stop. Now listen, I'm sorry that somebody lost their life or whatever, but those are consequences when you do stupid things like that.
Yeah, Ashley Babbitt was an American veteran, and she was a traitor to her country.
Yes.
Yet the Trump administration, one of its priorities coming back into power was giving her full military honors, which is wildly offensive to the hundreds of thousands of Americans who've died in the name of fucking freedom wearing a military uniform. She is and always will be a traitor. The military honors that she was given don't bestow honor on her, but they do bestow a shame on the entire veterans community.
Yeah. I agree 100% with him.
Well, and it's sort of, to give people an example, it's like, if you see, everybody could see the White House, that there's the very long lawn, right? And surrounded by fences. Now, would you like it if somebody jumped that fence, ran all the way to the White House, opened the door, and went outside? Or would you expect someone to have taken that person down about 10 feet before they cross the same? I don't see how this is any different from that. It's just a different
over
building.
the first fence.
Well, there have been some jumpers. They don't get very
They're
far.
getting
But like,
the first fence, but like,
yeah, they don't.
You don't make it
they
to
don't
the
get
door.
They don't get very far.
I mean, I like the fact that the Capitol is open and accessible to people.
Yeah.
I like that. It should be. It's the people's house. You have the right to lobby your members of Congress. The people that work there work for you. You're their bosses.
Right.
You should have access to them, but you can't just have unfettered access, just walking around. Like, there are ways to go about, and they know this. Like, I'm not saying anything new or breaking. They know this. They know that there are ways to get into Capitol, and not one single person thought that was okay. They reasonably thought that no one person thought. That's why they were prosecuted. That's why they were charged. That's why they were convicted. That's why they pled guilty.
Right. So I want to get to that. Oh, go ahead, Luke. Go ahead.
Well, that's the interesting thing about a pardon. You have to have done the fucking thing to get a pardon.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. But I want to keep going through the day, and I want to come back to that because that is another disgrace that Trump has put on all of us. But so
eventually
you end up in the speaker's chambers, right? Did you actually interact or outside? Did you ever interact with her or the staff while you were there, or were you out front, like just making sure that nobody was getting in?
So I didn't know until afterwards, like a day or two later, after talking to people where you were and this stuff, that while I was interacting with the group called the Oath Keepers, which I testified in open court against on 2 different occasions, while I was interacting with them, I was also distracting them because a lot of her staff were barricaded in their office. I didn't know that at the time. And they were actually being evacuated while I was distracting them, unknowingly distracting them. And it was, I didn't know that was happening until, like I said, about 2 or 3 days later. And that's why I've, Speaker Pelosi and her office and her staff and I have such a strong affinity for each other, because, it was kind of like unintended consequences that I got them out safely without even knowing it,
Right.
Well, that's just effective mediation, right? Like, just de-escalation. I mean, you don't seem like a inherently violent person.
I'm a big motherfucker, man. I told I'm like one of them, the sweet bears, man.
I told my wife this morning.
I'm not. I'm great until I'm not.
I told my wife this morning. I was like, we're interviewing this guy who is a Capitol Police officer, and he's like 6'7", 330 pounds, retired football player. And she's like, who the fuck would choose to attack somebody like that? Or choose to fight somebody like that?
These guys aren't the sharpest tool in the shed, right?
Either. At the same time, so I believe in de-escalation too.
Right.
I
just
was
talk it out.
I was a hostage negotiator. I was a crisis intervention officer. We got trained by the FBI.
Yeah.
Like, that was my training. I was certified negotiator. So I believe in de-escalation. Man, when I go into scenes with people that are in crisis, I'm going in there without my gun, and this is what I do.
Right.
But this wasn't that moment right there.
Right. So Harry, you've mentioned before that you did experience some physical altercations with some of these. Describe that, because again, I think it's really important. First of all, we're talking about like how ridiculous it is. We're talking about this 5 years after, but I do think it's important to remind people of that basically the hand-to-hand combat that was happening on that day. So could you just walk us through some of that?
So I was lucky. Like I said, I didn't experience a lot. My hand-to-hand combat was a one hitter quitter. Like I punched a guy, a shove here and there, experiencing blowback and bear spray and mace and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I looked after it was over, I noticed my hands were bloody. I had blood on, but I don't remember where the hell it came from. But I do remember decking the guy pretty damn good. That's the extent of my hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to portray it like I was the one out there battling on the front. No, that
White House down or something.
Yeah. No. I wasn't fucking Jason Bourne out there. You know, like, but
they all were in their heads. That's what they were thinking in their heads. They're all the action stars.
Absolutely. But what I did see and what I did do was officers that were out there getting their ass whooped. They were coming in, and I was like, all right, find work. What can you do? These officers need aid. So whether it was applying bandages or tissues or to stop bleeding or finding Band-Aids, flushing out eyes and of chemical irritants so they can get back in the fight, whatever that was, that's what I was doing. But the extent of my, like I said, because I had my rifle slung to me all day. So I tried to avoid people. So the extent of my hand-to-hand combat was a lot of just shoving, get back, and that one hitter quitter. Like,
right. So the thing that probably a lot of people are, and I've wondered this too, is like, while this is going on, like, are you processing that this, like, what is actually happening? Or do you just go into the, like, I have to protect, I have a job to do, I'm in it, and then after the fact you think about it? Or is like, what is that thought process like?
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people credit these officers and me and my coworkers for saving democracy, or, like, that's a hell of a byproduct of what we did. Like, I'm glad that it came out, and I'm thankful for the accolades and the awards, but we were just trying to make it home to our families. That was it. Like, I just wanted to go home to my daughter. My coworkers, I wanted to make sure they went to their husbands and wives when they, at the end of the day. And I think all of us looking to the left and to the right of us, that's all we were thinking about. Keep each other safe and keep the members safe. Like, that's it. Like, the election wasn't on my mind, and Donald Trump and Joe, that wasn't on my mind. Yeah. It's like, let's get home safely. It's hard for it not to be on your mind, because the while they were there the entire time, they were screaming, Donald Trump sent us. Donald Trump sent us.
Okay, so just to be clear,
we're allowed to be here.
Yeah, because I think this is a very important thing that people on the right still don't admit, is that the people that were there, or a lot of them, believe that Donald Trump sent them there.
Listen to this. Man, listen. If the president of the United States tells you to do something, fuck it, you're going to do it. Listen, man, if my mom tells me to do something, I don't care what anybody says. I'm doing what mom said. Like, I don't care what anybody says. What mom says goes, period, point blank, period. However, if the president tells you to do something, you're not going to feel emboldened. Like, Donald Trump told us to. It's on tape. Go watch.
To save the country.
The president told us to do.
Right. Well, and Donald Trump convinced them that he was coming there to physically be present to back them up. They believed that they were paving the way for their fucking golden calf to come up the stairs and be fucking carted into that room and be sworn in as the next president.
Yeah.
That is what they were there for.
Now, like I said, right or wrong, wrong. They know right or wrong. Wrong. They were wrong. But also, like I said, Donald Trump told them to. So listen, I get them following orders, so to speak, but you're also a grown ass man or woman who has to make a educated decision. Be like, wait a minute. So I don't have sympathy for people that, you know what? There were people there, and a lot of people use this as their defense in court. We got caught up in the moment. You know what? You probably did. You're right. That is not an excuse, though.
Nope.
We're grown-ups.
You probably did, but you have to be accountable for your actions.
Yeah, I mean, I got caught up in the moment when I was eating that bag of Doritos last night. I mean, I ate the whole fucking thing. But that, I still got to work off those calories. It's not the same shit.
Well,
I didn't storm the Capitol.
I was going to say, so
caught up in the moment.
I was going to say, Harry, I guess you're suggesting that these guys fucked around and then they found out.
Correct. They did. Right? But it didn't last, though. It didn't last because now
for like 6 months.
Yeah, now they're being celebrated as heroes, and they're running for office. They're getting appointments in administrations.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, and also being rearrested too for other crimes.
Or killed.
Yeah,
One of them was just straight up shot.
At,
I mean,
at
you
least
now-
one has gotten a second pardon. So
That just
Oh,
happened.
right.
That
It's
happened this
fucking crazy.
weekend.
Yep,
Donald
gave a
Trump
double
Trump
pardon.
pardoned a guy and a woman for threatening to kill the FBI that their pardon from January 6th did not cover, but Donald Trump repardoned them to include that. And it's just sickening. I mean, you have the Proud Boys, they have $100 million lawsuit pending. I don't know where the status of that is now. They filed $100 million. So they're being rewarded. And meanwhile, I quit my job 4 years short of a pension, a full pension, and officers are being forced to retire. And I mean, I had it great, as an officer. I loved it.
Right.
But
Well,
these
I want to
people just
talk
filing
about
lawsuits left and right.
I want to
for
talk about this
paydays.
because I think it's important that people, the right tends to say, well, the only person that died on I almost said 9/11 on
Yeah.
January 6th. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
On January 6th was one of ours, but that's not really true, right? Like there were, I mean, I think 2 or 3 officers who later took their lives.
I think
which
4 or 5 total
is it 4 or 5?
have died related to the
There were 5 officer-related suicides. And that's something that's been near and dear to me about mental health and everything like that. Like,
Right.
people carry a lot of burdens and struggles with them, and people only seem to care after it's over. They'd be like, what the hell happened? Because I think as society, and not taking it as on a whole nother topic, but I think it's important. Society expects people to just be tough and strong, and especially when with going through arguably the worst day of your life, people telling you that it didn't exist or you were responsible for it. So a lot of people carry a lot of heavy burdens about that, and it's not fair. But yes, Ashley Babbitt did die at the hands of law enforcement that day. Roseanne Boylan died that day. I think the medical examiner said she had like a heart attack, and I don't know. She was trampled, a whole bunch of other things.
Right.
But Brian Sicknick died, an officer of Capitol Police, a Trump supporter, died, and he died from he had 2 strokes the night of January, the night into the mornings, because a lot of people didn't leave till after midnight. So January 6th, technically January 7th, the day was still ongoing for us. But he had 2 strokes, and that's what the medical examiner concluded the cause of his death. But Brian was in tip-top shape. He was one of the bike officers, but also deep in the bottom of that report, which I really disappointed the way the medical examiner wrote it, was that the events of January 6th contributed to the cause of his death. But I don't think that's buried so damn down at the bottom of the report that MAGA only sees officer died from 2 strokes and natural causes.
Well, it's like how they say, like, well, you get stabbed in the throat, and the report says you died from blood loss.
No, you died. Yeah, exactly.
You died from getting stabbed in the fucking throat.
Stabbed.
But point blank, if those guys stayed home, if January 6th didn't happen, they would still, all of them would still be alive right now.
Right.
Period. That's
right.
Yep.
So Harry,
the thing that people don't really talk about is the idea of moral injury. I think American culture has a pretty good understanding of what PTSD is, post-traumatic stress disorder. Something bad happens and you have difficulty adjusting to it, right? But moral injury is something that I think we don't talk about enough. I don't think enough people understand. And that is the concept of either witnessing or participating in or even hearing about something that violates your core values in a way that shakes you. And that is something that I think many police officers, not just who were present that day, felt. They saw all of the flags, the Blue Lives Matter stuff, the blue line in the American flags. They really believed that MAGA supported them. And then they saw Blue Lives Matter flags being used to beat their sisters and brothers, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that like mind-breaking, belief-breaking incident can haunt somebody, and it can result in things like self-harm.
It does. It completely does. I'm glad you brought up moral injury. My friend Sergeant Aquilino Ganell talked about moral injury a lot, but also I think one of the biggest things outside of, obviously the biggest thing is the loss of life, but creates this apathy where people just don't even give a shit anymore. It's just, and that not even just officers, but every single American who watched it on national TV that day. Everybody who watched, who gives a damn about democracy in this country and the peaceful transfer of power and the rule of law. Everybody believes in that bullshit, right? Or we call it bullshit now because this administration wiped their ass with it. It's kind of like they feel, what the fuck is the point? So I'm glad that, like I said, going back to giving you all your flowers, thank you for doing this, because a lot of people that are probably listening probably say, what the fuck is the point? I don't care. Like, why vote? It doesn't matter. Donald Trump's going to stay in the White House. It creates this type of new rule and it crushes. It's kind of like when you find out that Santa Claus isn't real. It's like, yo, what the fuck, yo?
Wait,
like,
what?
I hadn't found that one out yet. Thanks for the spoiler.
I probably said that
Sorry, Luke.
My daughter's not here. Man, fuck. Dude, I still believe in Santa Claus. I drive.
The fuck do my presents come
Christmas
from?
Eve, Christmas Eve, at midnight, I start looking up in the sky like,
I know.
There's a sleigh. Like,
I think there's this trajectory as a parent, right? Where like you're a kid and you believe all the magic, and then you're a teenager, a young adult, and you don't believe the magic, and then when you're an adult, you're like, I gotta make the fucking magic. Like we gotta have the magic because there's not a whole lot left. Faith in humanity is broken. Faith in patriotism is broken. Faith in my career maybe is like, But man, at least there's. I like the Santa Claus and Easter Bunny, like wildly underrated.
Right. Well, Harry, there's another one. No, so after all of this happens, and we have the January 6th commission, and you participated in all on the hearings and things like that. Were you surprised or not surprised that essentially no Republicans, I mean, I guess there were 10 that voted for impeachment, but that they basically put their tail between their legs and went and hid on this?
Well, so I think this was like the awakening of my political rising, or whatever you want to call it. I was always, as I grew, in my book, I wrote about, growing into the job. So, all about law enforcement first, but now I'm curious about the votes that they're taking. I didn't care about Medicaid and Medicare when I'm 24 years old. I don't give a damn. I got a great paycheck and I can buy a round of drinks for girls at the bar. Like, I didn't care. Like, that's all I cared about. Like, I'm cool. But as you start to grow up and you get a little older, my parents were wondering about their health care and, hey, wait, I just bought a house. What do you mean I got to pay extra taxes on it? So start paying attention to shit that actually matters. So I grew into the job. So I was always became aware of the political culture. And then obviously when Donald Trump came around, he created this environment where it became cult-like more so than just doing what's best for the people and your constituents. So I started paying, and I would expect the members of Congress, I did have higher hopes for them that I did have, especially because he was an outgoing president. Like, hey, all right, outgoing, break your ties from him and, fight back and do better. And everybody was immediately after January 6th. I mean, you had Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump's biggest supporter.
You can go for it.
His biggest supporter saying, I'm done with him. I'm through with him. I can't, this is it. Kevin McCarthy, all of them said the things on the House floor. We're done with this guy. Mitch McConnell, every single one, right? But slowly after time, it wasn't even really slowly. Like, it was kind of like, it lasted about like 2-3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Because they saw, they chose politics over country and over politics over right and wrong. And because Democrats were actually looking good because Republicans look bad, they were like, wait, we have to take this back. You know what? If y'all look bad, then fucking do better.
Right. Well, we had Adam Kinzinger on last week, I believe.
Adam's not a normal Republican, man.
No, I know, but he was talking about Kevin McCarthy originally blaming Donald Trump and then backtracking on it. And not voting for impeachment. Like, these guys are just, and he went down to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, it's in the documentary that he was in. Like,
Adam's a good friend of mine. So if he's listening, what's up, Adam?
He's a good dude.
We've gone out drinking a couple times together. Me and Adam, good buddies.
Yeah. But it's just it's just insane that I think there were eight Republicans that voted for impeachment in the Senate. And something like that. It was like nothing.
I thought at that moment, like, change is incremental, right? Because during the Ukraine Russia thing, the phone call, like the impeachment with that, it was not.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't strong, but then we had this many come around and this many. I was like, all right, guys, we're kind of making the turn here. But then all of a sudden, then what? The ones that stood up to Donald in the House, I think it was 12 or 13 that voted for impeachment.
Right.
And all of those, every single last one that voted is no longer in Congress anymore.
I have emails from my members of Congress still from 2016, and Facebook posts are still out there saying, after the Access Hollywood tapes, I can no longer endorse Donald Trump for presidency. This is in 2016. And those people are all still in Congress and they're all just doing his work. After that, after January 6th, after the pardons, like the spinelessness of Republican Party, it's.
Listen, I get people. I get
level.
it that people need an off ramp. I get it. Like, you've committed to something for so long. How can you sit there and say, oh, dude, I'm gonna make a fool of myself? I supported this guy. But there have been so many obvious off ramps that this is it. Like, okay, tariffs, okay, maybe not. Okay, that's not
Epstein files.
Right? Epstein files.
Got another off ramp right now.
And January, everything like all this. There have been so many off ramps. I have zero sympathy for anybody now who throws their support behind Donald Trump and anything bad comes of it. Like, I can understand it. 2016, 2017.
Right.
But after that, every single day, every single week, it's something new with this guy that he provides you an off ramp.
Right.
And y'all haven't taken it. So screw y'all.
Yeah.
Can we just cut at that? I think we're done.
I think that's the end. Yeah.
Well, Harry, go ahead.
Harry, what does justice look like to you? I mean, a lot of the insurrection, all of the insurrectionists who had been prosecuted have been pardoned. Donald Trump was never charged with shit.
Yeah.
What does justice look like to you? Do you think that justice is even possible? Like, what are you fighting for?
So check this out. So when I spoke out on January 7th, I wanted accountability and justice. That's my reason for speaking out on January 7th, 2021 until whatever the hell today is in 2025. I wanted accountability and I wanted justice. Look, accountability provides two things. It provides some type of comfort and closure to victims of anybody who's aggrieved of any situation. And secondly, it provides a deterrent to keep people from doing it again. We were on our road to that. And that was railroaded. Donald Trump was going to be held accountable and justice going to be served when the House of Representatives impeached him. And then it went to the Senate, and then we like, all right, that institution failed us. So there's no justice that route. All right, the courts now the courts are involved. So maybe there's justice here. When Jack Smith got appointed, I mean, the whole fucking country was rooting for this guy, for Jack. I mean, people had Jack Smith merch, like mugs, fucking tattoos of Jack Smith. Like, people were loving this guy. Everybody loved Jack Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the courtroom rooting for him. Let's go, get this bastard. Supreme Court comes out and rules, Donald Trump has immunity. He's a king. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Well, fuck. All right, there's no justice there. All right, no accountability there. All right, November the 5th, we got an opportunity for the people to say, we're done with this dude. It was our chance now. It's our chance. Who more than the people? And we, the people, failed that mission. We as Americans failed on November the 5th. Not to just elect Kamala Harris, who I was crazy about. That's a whole different story. But it was just to send a message to Donald Trump. We don't like you and our country deserves better. We had an opportunity for that. And you know what? We did it. In fact, we said, you know what, Donald Trump, we like you. So maybe we as a country are a country that welcomes rapists, that potential pedophiles, that likes felons, that supports people that want to grab women by the pussy. We are a country that's okay with that. That is what America is. And if we aren't, and people are saying, no, we're not, then why the hell didn't we show that on November the 5th? Right. So to go back to the ultimate question, what does justice look? I don't know anymore. I've asked myself the same question. I do know that I believe that although our country showed on November 5th 2024 that we love Donald Trump, I think we deserve better as a country. I think we deserve better. I think my daughter deserves better. I think the future generations, I think you all's kids, you all's families deserve better than what we're experiencing right now. We can be better. We have to be better. And accountability and justice now looks like making it better. I was in Maine this past weekend.
Yes.
And I had the opportunity. You were in Maine.
Right.
I got me a
I'm from Maine. I'm from Maine.
got me a great lobster roll with heavy drawn butter on it. My God, my arteries are still hurting.
Yes.
But it was so fucking good. But I was up there, I had the opportunity to share the stage with J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, Malcolm Kenyatta, the vice chair of the DNC, and just rallying people because them like me on November 5th just felt this gut punch and said, dude, WTF, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but instead of just sitting at home pouting around, all right, I'm an action-driven guy. We are at this inflection point now. What do we do? So, like, initially, I ran for Congress. And I was like, all right, let's fucking run for Congress. All right. Didn't win. All right, what now? What now can I do? What now can I do? So I'm out there speaking out now, trying to get the word out, elect good Democrats, because clearly the Republicans aren't care about nobody else but themselves and Donald Trump. So I know this is a long spiel about what justice and accountability looks like. It looks like continuing to fight for a better country, and not letting one man getting off the hook define no accountability, no justice ever again.
So, Harry, we're just at about time, but I want to commend you for continuing to fight on this, because I know the easy thing would have been to have experienced this and basically gone away and been like, I don't know, get a cabin in the woods and not, talk to anybody anymore.
Move to Portugal.
Move to Portugal. But
Portugal's nice out here.
It is nice.
That's what I'm saying,
nice.
man.
Very
Let's not
nice.
rule out
Yeah,
Portugal.
yeah. But how can people, like, what are you doing now? Like, how can people support you and follow you as we're moving forward to hopefully take back the House and Senate next year in 2026?
So I'm glad that you said that, Tim. That's one of the biggest things that we can do. Like, Donald Trump isn't going to jail. Elon Musk isn't going to jail. Donald Trump's going to pardon any and everybody in this administration in the last of his 4 years. But how can we stop him right now? By controlling one chamber in Congress. Now, the Senate is a lot tougher math-wise and map-wise and everything, because only a third of the people in the Senate are up. But every single person in the House of Representatives is up for re-election this year. In November of 2026. And we have to defeat them and give a Democratic controlled House, because that way we can stop anything that Donald Trump wants to do through legislation. And that's the only way. Like, we can put a Band-Aid on this bleeding. Now, we need surgery, but give me a band. If we're going to have a choice between a Band-Aid or nothing, give me a Band-Aid. So I am out there. I started a PAC called Harry Dunn's Democracy Defenders, and it is hyper-focused on electing candidates that believe in democracy and also don't take money from super huge corporations, grassroots donors and everything like that. $5-10 chip in, and it goes to all supporting and getting those candidates elected. But the number one thing people can do, be involved, be educated. Be educated. Like, that is the number one thing that you can do, because educated people make educated decisions at the ballot box and usually do not have buyer's remorse at the ballot box, which so many people in MAGA are having right now. But also, you can follow me on socials. I have a Substack called Standing Our Ground. I have a podcast called Pores and Perspectives, and I co-host another podcast called Clean Up on Aisle 45 with my friend Allison Gill. Her name is Muller, she wrote on social medias. I do a podcast with her. But also, I got a book out called Standing My Ground, a Capitol Police Officers Fight for Accountability and Good Trouble After January 6th. So that's my self-promotion right there.
Right.
Harry, I just got to say, I mean, you're a black man in America, and you served for 15 years.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with the cameras, I'm making an assumption here, but serve the country for 15 years. You get, I'll just say, betrayed and betrayed and betrayed. Betrayed at the election booth. You get betrayed in the Capitol by your own people, by the president. And yet here you are doing good work, overcoming barriers, fighting the right fight. Three of us are girl dads on this call. Four of us now are girl dads on this call with you as a guest. How do you communicate to your daughter? Like, what do you say to your daughter about, the future? Like, because all of this is coming through you, right? And that's like one of our main jobs as a parent is to help shape our kids' worldview, keep them optimistic if possible. How are you doing that?
Well, shit, man, my daughter only cares about Labubu's and saying 6'7", man. Like,
6'7".
No, I mean, listen, kids are smart. Kids are very smart. Kids are paying attention to shit that we don't think that they are. They're watching us. They're looking at over our shoulders on our phones when we're not there. Like they're paying attention. But what I want to do above all is set a good example for, I believe, standing up for what is right is the number one thing to do, no matter what, even when it's hard. So Donald Trump is a bad man in our house, and people that don't support people's rights and let people want to live the way that they want to, those are bad people. But I just want to show her that Daddy wasn't afraid to stand up. Daddy had a backbone. Daddy did what he thought was right. And not even just to her, to any and everybody out there, listening. January 6th to me hasn't been about, liberalism and ban guns and legalize abortion. That's not, because you can have those discussions in the halls of Congress under normal times. You can talk about whether we spend too much on SNAP. We can have those discussions. Are tariffs the right? You can have all those discussions. We cannot discuss if January 6th should ever happen again, be allowed, be accepted. We cannot have that discussion. That is a 100% no deal breaker. And that's morally wrong. We cannot dispute right and wrongs in this country. Like I said, we can have discussions about where we're spending our money and blah, blah, blah. We can have those discussions. But standing up for what is right, that's why I titled my book, Standing My Ground, because you have to stand up, especially when so many people around you are telling you that you're wrong and you're crazy. Believe in yourself, trust yourself, and always believe in yourself.
Well, Harry, thank you very much for joining us, and also just thank you for everything that you've done for this country. And
Thanks, man.
You and all of the officers on January 6th are true American patriots and heroes. And it is awful to hear the vocal minority, knocking you guys. But I do truly believe that the majority of the country greatly appreciates everything that you and the officers
have done. Can I ask you? I know you said we're about to wrap, but can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
I hear that a lot. That so many people say, the majority of us, then why the fuck didn't we win the election, man? Like, I'm not even like being like sarcastic.
Well,
I'll another question.
Wakes me up at 5 a.m. every day.
Why the fuck did we not have?
Well, fills me with rage.
It is.
If most people support us, then how the fuck did they let him back in the White House? I feel betrayed by this country. This country betrayed me, obviously, with a lot of other people. But and I know I asked you a question that could take a whole nother fucking show.
Well, I was like, you're gonna make me explain. You're gonna make me explain MAGA. No, but I'll give you a short answer because it's very fair, and you have every right to feel that way. I think that Republicans and conservative media have created an ecosystem that is impenetrable to anybody else, and they have basically over the past at that point it would have been 4 years, lied about what happened on January 6th, and a lot of people are not getting good information. Mainstream media is not talking about it either. And I think on the left, this is partly why we are doing this show, because we need to amplify the fact, like we talked about at the beginning, like the fact that we have to have this conversation almost 5 years after a violent insurrection or coup attempt, whichever way you want to call it. We have to remind people because no one's telling the story. And I think that is a failure both of mainstream media, which is becoming less and less useful or even noticed at this point. And when there isn't that, they have been filled with this right-wing ecosystem where billionaires have been paying YouTubers and podcasters, and then you got Fox News, and everybody's been lying about this. And I think this is a signal to the left that we have to get serious about fighting back. I do believe that a lot of people just didn't vote because I think they thought, oh, well, I don't know who to believe because they don't pay attention like we do.
Sure.
I'm not excusing it, but I do think there's that. But I think if you took that clip that the Jan 6 committee released of all of the violent insurrection and you showed the average American, I think they would be horrified by that. But I don't think many of them have seen it since that day. And so many people have told them that didn't happen. Now, I don't think that's the total answer, but I think that's a lot of what's going on is that we just don't. Democrats also don't fight back hard enough and be outraged enough, and there needed to be more penalties. And I do think that the Biden administration needed to move quicker on going after Donald Trump, which is why we are here. So I think, yes, I could talk about that all for 8 hours and probably bore everyone to death. But like, I think those are the top reasons, and I think it's a multifaceted thing.
You're missing one. There's apathy. Like, and this is, I think, what Harry is going through is the lesson that I went through when I came home from Iraq. I came home from Iraq and realized nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a shit about veterans. Nobody gave a shit about the soldiers. My friends who were fighting and dying, nobody fucking gave a shit about anything. And that is, I think, the core character of America that we're really fighting. MAGA is a cancer, but the bigger problem is apathy. And that's where I think we're making progress.
Yeah.
We're not going to convert MAGA, but I think we'll get more people to care.
Okay.
Well, and I think also giving, and I think when you build a larger left-wing media ecosystem, you can actually explain all of the amazing things that Kamala Harris wanted to do on affordability. Like she had this great thing about buying your first home. She had stuff for small businesses, things that would have actually helped Americans, but it got drowned out by the fact that Biden couldn't finish the primary. And then it was a circus. And then Trump just like did anti-trans stuff and talked about prices. I mean, so.
Everything that's happening in Project 2025 is happening now.
Right.
It's a shocker. It's a
Why
shocker.
didn't
He knew
anyone
nothing
tell
about
us?
it, though.
Someone should have told us that they were
Someone
going
should
to do
have said
that.
something about that.
Well, and the mainstream media is now, like Barry Weiss is now in charge of CBS News. Like she is a right-wing hack. You know, the Ellisons bought that. They're buying other things. And so it is a serious, serious problem. And I'm glad you pushed me because, it is true and we have to talk about these things. And I do think, whether it's 50.1% or not, there are millions and millions of Americans who greatly appreciate what you have done and are outraged at how you all have been treated in the past. Because this, to me, was a no-brainer. You guys saved lives that day. Like you did. Like if there had been if they had gotten into Pelosi's office, not only would have Pelosi staff have been hurt, that the protesters would have been hurt as well.
Sure.
And you guys saved lives. You did protect democracy. I mean, I don't think that they would have overturned it would have just been a horrible, horrible mess. And people would have died. And and the fact, this is actually the thing that enrages me is the most about MAGA is how they claim to be for veterans. They claim to be for police and they're not. They're not. And they treat everybody like shit. You should get a standing ovation wherever you go for the rest of your life for what you did on January. I know you're saying no, but I'm serious. Oh, I'll buy you a beer. You like a little bourbon. I'll buy you all the beers. No, but seriously, and it enrages me that, and I do think Chris is right on the apathy thing, and I think a lot of Democrats, there's so much going on. It's like, oh, that was 5 years ago, but like these guys' lives changed forever. Your life changed forever. We lost officers. The Republicans are supposed to be the blue. It's fucking horseshit. They don't care at all. And
I went from having my fucking private Instagram page to having a fucking Wikipedia page now. Like, what the fuck? I didn't even accept people on Instagram. Now I got a fucking Wikipedia. It's fucking crazy.
This whole world is a little nutty. But look, I am so glad that we're in this fight with you. And
Thanks,
I think that there is a bigger group of people that is finally waking up to this and realizing that this is a 5-alarm fire. And like, if we don't take back the House next year, like, I don't know what 2028 looks like. And I'm not one to be like, no elections and all this shit, but like, I'm serious. Like, and what you said is exactly right. We need the House and for oversight so that we could drag them in with subpoenas, but also so that we could just jam them up and they can't pass any more dangerous stuff. So, I certainly like,
if I was in Congress, I would in the majority, I'd propose articles of impeachment every fucking week for the next 2
Yeah,
fucking
I mean,
years.
Congressman Green did, I think, right? Didn't he? There are some, I think.
Yeah, but as in the minority.
I know. So it's
There's
like, yeah,
the majority, and make them fucking every fucking week for the next 2 years. That's you want to be a lame duck. If I ran for Congress again, I would fucking run. I'm gonna impeach this son bitch every fucking week. You know.
I know. Well, and it would be warranted. And he has done more impeachable things since he's been in office. It's very obvious. The corruption is just off the charts. So, well, Harry, again, thank you. And I'm glad we had that last bit because I do think that's really important. We do believe that you are a hero and a true patriot, and we greatly appreciate all of your service. And we are so glad to be in this fight with you. So everybody, go support Harry. Go make some donations to Democrats because you're so angry about what happened on January 6th. Yeah. And let's take the House back in 2026.
2026, yeah.
All right, yeah. All right, thank you, Harry. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Thanks.